Hey, so a year ago, I played around with this Captain Falcon idea and was really invested in these VFX that ended up being entirely driven through geometry nodes and taking advantage of using selective lighting to play with shaders so that we've got this strong front light, back light, into front light again, as well as some grease pencils to actually show the Falcon punch. And if any of that's interesting, that whole series is still here on YouTube. So in this video, I kind of want to just highlight really quickly some neat tips and tricks for using a fairly reduced color palette and how to use that in tandem with compositor masks to also make some pretty cool VFX completely native to Blender. So I recommend using a color palette, making a group that you can toss into any materials as you're continuing to explore the geometry space without needing to worry about UV unwrapping. If you're actually texturing something, this won't work as well, but if you're playing with flats, I highly recommend this, especially for blocking out. The other thing I like to do here, there is a sunlight here, but as you can tell, it's pretty light. And this is due to the fact that we're looking at the hair here. I'm using a mixture of diffuse and emission. This group is also one of my favorites. Super simple. I honestly probably could have put all this in here as well, but it made more intuitive sense for me to just do a mix shader. So this is where I pass most of my flat colors. And this is how even in the shadows, we're not going nearly as dark as a pure diffusion would. And the reason for this, and the reason for being so emissive, in one part is, again, those shadows, and in another, a compositor setup built to mask and work out the intended VFX. So in this case, we can generate our magic literally in 3D space. The Fresnel's just so I remember that it's magic. That does not reflect what you see in the final output. So what happens is this emission output is what we can use against the entire node setup. So even as things are occluded by this magic, say, or other things, we have that base flat color as we've designated in our palette. And with that, we can play more with masking things. So we can just take all of the image and make a nice little outline by dilating a matte in 2 different steps, and then multiplying this inverted mask so that we've got just the outline, and then setting that white strip to black, overlaying with an alpha over. We can do the same with the magic by giving it a separate outline by material. And then we can also, because we are using emission, we can pass this emission through some filters, take in some normal information if we care, and then use one of our filters, say the Sobel filter, and only apply the Sobel where there is that the Sobel? We can actually use some Kirsch. I have Severance on the mind. We can use a filter selectively where our magic mask is. So what you'll notice is only where this magic is overlapping are we making a new interpretation of the emissive color. And then we can continue using that mask as we go further and reapply everything as normal outside of the mask, and then that mask internally. And then, again, because we're doing things flatly and I've got that color saved, that highlight color in the purple, I can then also set the background to this color. So I use a combination of transparency and then just parts of objects as masks, and then playing around a lot in the compositor. The reason I find this useful is for a more dynamic pose like this, where there are several things happening in the background at once, and you want a contiguous VFX at once, where all the magic is somewhat combined. And if you were to try to do this with just shaders, it gets really complicated to have things occluded by the shaders and then the shaders still representing flatly. Yeah, hope this helps. See you around.